Chapter 21. And Yahweh visited Sarah as he had said, and Yahweh did to Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which Yahweh had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as Yahweh had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, Yahweh has made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said to Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And Yahweh said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous in your sight because of the lad, and because of your bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac shall your seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, took bread, a bottle of water, gave it to Hagar, putting it upon her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs, and she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot, for she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice, and wept. And Yahweh heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar out of heaven, and said to her, What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for Yahweh has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in your hand, for I will make him a great nation. And Yahweh opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad to drink. And Yahweh was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spoke to Abraham, saying, Yahweh is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me here by Yahweh that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done to you, shall you do to me, and to the land wherein you have traveled. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing, neither did you tell me, neither yet have I heard of it but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What do these 7 ewe lambs mean which you have set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs shall you take of my hand, that they may be a witness to me that I have dug this well. Wherefore he called that place Beersheba, because they swore both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and called there on the name of Yahweh, the everlasting El. And Abraham traveled in the Philistines' land many days. End of chapter. Genesis chapter 22. And it came to pass after these things that Yahweh did tempt Abraham, and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and get you into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell you of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went into the place of which Yahweh had told him. And then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young man, Stay here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, Yahweh will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. And so they went both of them together. And they came to the place of which Yahweh had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the messenger of Yahweh called to him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham! And he said, Here I am. And he said, Lay not your hand upon the lad, saying to him, For now I know that you fear Yahweh, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Yahweh Yireh, as it is said to this day, In the mount of Yahweh it shall be seen. And the angel of Yahweh called to Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, says Yahweh, for because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that in blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she has also borne children to your brother Nahor, Huz, his firstborn, and Buz, his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Chesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jileph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begat Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she also bore Tebah, and Gahem, and Thahash, and Maacah. End of chapter. Genesis chapter 23. And Sarah was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kirjatharba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before his dead, and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my master. You are a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres bury your dead. None of us shall withhold from you his sepulchre, but that you may bury your dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and entreat for me to Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me a cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of his field. For as much money as it is worth, he shall give it me for a possession of a burying place amongst you. And Ephron dwelt among the children of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Heth, even of all that went in at the gate of his city, saying, No, my master, hear me. The field give I to you, and the cave that is in it, I give it to you. In the presence of the sons of my people do I give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if you will give it, I pray you, hear me. I will give you money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My master, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that betwixt you and I? Bury therefore your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron. And Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver, which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant. And the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the borders round about were made sure unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave that is in it were made sure to Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth. End of chapter. Genesis chapter 24. And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his eldest servant of his house that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray you, your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by Yahweh, the Elohim of heaven, and the Elohim of the earth, that you shall not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites amongst whom I dwell. But you shall go to my country, and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Peradventure the woman will not be willing to follow me into this land. Must I needs bring your son again into the land from whence you came? And Abraham said to him, Beware that you bring not my son there again, and which took me from my father's house, and from the land of my kindred, and which spoke to me, and hath swore to me, saying, Unto thy seed will I give this land. He shall send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife to my son from there. And if the woman will not be willing to follow you, then you shall be clear from this my oath. Only bring not my son there again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning that matter. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master, and departed. For all the goods of his master were in his hand. And he arose, and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels to kneel down outside the city by a well of water, at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Yahweh, Elohim of my master Abraham, I pray you, send me good speed this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass, that the damsel to whom I shall say, Let down your pitcher, I ask you that I may drink. And she shall say, Drink, and I will give your camels drink also. Let the same be she that you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And thereby shall I know that you have showed kindness to my master. And it came to pass, before he had done speaking, that Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, and with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin, neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well, and filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, Let me, I ask you, drink a little water of your pitcher. And she said, Drink, my master. And she hasted, and let down her pitcher upon her hand, and gave him to drink. And when she had done giving him to drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also, until they have done drinking. And she hasted, and emptied her pitcher into the trough, and ran again to the well to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And the man, wondering at her, held his peace, to see whether Yahweh had made his journey prosperous or not. And it came to pass, as the camels had gone drinking, that the man took a golden earring of 1/2 shekel of weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me, I ask you, is there room in your father's house for us to lodge in? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bore to Nahor. And she said moreover to him, We have both straw and provender enough, and room to lodge in. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahweh. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I, being in the way, Yahweh led me to the house of my master's brethren. And the damsel ran and told them of her mother's house these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out to the man and to the well. And it came to pass, when he saw the earring and bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spoke the man to me, that he came to the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well, and he said, Come in, you blessed of Yahweh. Why do you stand, you outside? For I've prepared the house and room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he ungirded his camels, and gave straw and provender for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the men's feet that were with him. And there was set food before him to eat. But he said, I will not eat until I have told my errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant. And Yahweh has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and menservants and maidservants and camels and asses. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him has he given all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, You shall not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but you shall go to your father's house and to your kindred, and take a wife to my son. And I said to my master, What if the woman will not follow me? And he said to me, Yahweh, before whom I walk, will send his messenger with you and prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son of my kindred and of my father's house. Then shall you be clear from this my oath when you come to my kindred, and if they do not give you one, you shall be clear from my oath. And I came this day to the well, and said, O Yahweh, Elohim of my master Abraham, if now you do prosper my way which I go, behold, I stand by the well of water, and it shall come to pass that when the virgin comes forth to draw water, and I say to her, Give me, I ask of you, a little water of your pitcher to drink, and she say to me, Both drink you, and I will also draw for your camels, let the same be the woman whom Yahweh has appointed out for my master's son. And before I had done speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down to the well and drew water. And I said to her, Let me drink, I ask you. And she made haste, let down her pitcher from her shoulder, and said, Drink, and I will give your camels drink also. And so I drank, and she made the camels drink as well. And I asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bare to him. And I put the earring upon her face, and the bracelets upon her hands, and I bowed down my head and worshipped Yahweh, and blessed Yahweh, Elohim of my master Abraham, which had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter to his son. And now, if you will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing proceeds from Yahweh. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her, and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Yahweh has spoken. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped Yahweh, bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, and gave them to Rebekah. He gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things. And they did eat and drink, he and the men that were with him, and tarried all the night. And they rose up in the morning, and he said, Send me away to my master. And her brother and her mother said, Let the damsel abide with us a few days, at the least 10. After that she shall go. And he said to them, Do not hinder me, seeing Yahweh has prospered my way. Send me away, that I may go to my master. And they said, We will call the damsel, and inquire at her mouth. And they called Rebekah, and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And blessed Rebekah, and said to her, You are our sister. Be you the mother of thousands of millions, and let your seed possess the gate of those which hate them. And Rebekah arose, and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels, and followed the man, and the servant took Rebekah, and went his way. And Isaac came from the way of the well Lahairoi, for he dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the evening. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw, and behold, the camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she got off the camel, for she had said to the servant, What man is this that walks in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, It is my master. Therefore she took a veil, and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. End of chapter. Genesis chapter 25. Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bore to him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begat Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, and Letushim, and Leumim. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abidah, and Eldaah. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac, but to the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward to the east country. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 160 years. And then Abraham breathed his last, and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that Elohim blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahairoi. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bore to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael. And these are their names, by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years, and he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as you go towards Assyria, and he died in the presence of all his brethren. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Paddan Aram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife, because she was barren. And Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I this way? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. And Yahweh said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from your bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came in from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I ask you, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day your birthright. And Esau said, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. And thus Esau despised his birthright. End of chapter.